doing good. I'm doing really good. The weather is nice here today. It's been um, sunny and it just has been really nice to be outside in the sun, really. But
Good.
the books are amazing. I was like,
Yes.
look at all these books. This is so much to take in. But I was excited to see that list.
Yesterday, I started reading Two Sides of the Coin, something like that. I'm not sure it's the right name, but it's such a beautiful book by Gray, and it is
Mhm.
not easy. It's not easy to read. It's not easy to because the way he writes, he's deconstructing the way we think. So usually, whatever we read is coming with the way of the world. How usually, like the mechanical thinking. And what he does with his book is just deconstructing of every thought that we have or we might have. And it's not easy to read. But in this way, he's just washing out because, good morning, Cindy. We're very happy to see you here. Because when you read it, while reading it, it's just washing everything that you thought it's concrete and this is how people work together or think or function. But slowly, sentence by sentence, it's just washing it out. So it's remarkable. It's not
Well,
easy to read. It's not because of the English. It's just, to wash out what we think is right and this is how life is about, and challenging book.
well, that sounds like an exciting one. And you said that one's two sides of the coin?
Something like that. It's on the
Okay,
phone. I don't have it next to me, but it's on Kindle. Yes. Yes, something. Yes, to cite. Yes.
I'll pull it
What
up.
we
Thank you.
You're most welcome. Most welcome. Cindy, good morning. We're happy to see you. How do you do today? It is usually that we think that we take ourselves, yes, those bodies as a absolute reality. But what appears is also disappears. So everything which is temporal, we look at it as solid as if it were a solid reality or was, but it is ain't. There's a Let's say there's an apple tree, and let's say in the summer the fruit is ready and people are picking the fruit, yes, until September, and then they store it or eat it or so. It comes every year. But once we are let's say completing picking the apples, there's only the apple tree with no fruit. And in the next year, we shall see the apples or the fruits of the tree. In the same manner, we don't tend to see ourselves as an apple tree or as an apple, but we are like this. Let's say the apple appears on the tree almost every year and is being picked, yes. So yearly we see the fruits of the apple, but we don't relate to our good evening, Yanis. We don't relate to our lifespan here as a life of an apple appearing and disappearing. We don't. To bypass, because we have like brains that tell us that if people live 120 years, 150 years, we're different than the apple, the life of an apple. But it's a Weinreb does it, the deconstruction. Weinreb also, while writing his book, Quotes of the Bible, he does the same thing. While writing the book, or while we're reading the book, what the book does is deconstructing the way we perceive reality. This is why so many people find it very difficult for them to read a book, not to mention to catch an idea. I don't mention even to understand it. There was a good review on Goodreads about the Weinreb book. The review was like this. It's about a fellow, a dude, a man, that once in his life he attended a course in university. And the professor recommended them to read The Roots of the Bible. So he did. He bought a book as a part of the recommendation of the professor. And the book was standing on his shelf for 15 years. 15 years, 1 and 5, 15 years he did not touch. He never opened the book. One day he opened the book and he started reading it, and he was amazed from what he has found there. I mean, the levels of truth he's saying. And still, I think that if you will browse in a Goodreads, you will find this beautiful review. Now, Gray is the author that we recommended his books here, like 8 books or so. Gray and Weinreb, they are the children, let's say, of the same era. Chronologically, they were both were born, yes, at the last years of the 19th century. And they speak of the same thing. The journey of Mr. Gray was to move from England to France and then to Asia and meet those sages in this ashram. Ashram is a temple or so. In India, he met them. This was Gray's way. And the books that he left for us are deconstructing the reality that we perceive as absolute truth. Weinreb deconstructs reality as well, but through the Bible. So how does Weinreb start the deconstruction? By offering us very simple formula or parallel thinking, that a life of human is not any different than a life of a tree or an apple. Because we think that we are better because we are picking the apple and we're eating it and we consume the apple, so the apple is little and we are the greater. It's little, the apple, in relation to human body size or so. Weinreb says it's not. Because the truth is that both are the same, and there is a even beautiful of the Bible, because the man is the tree of the field. Ki ha'adam etz hasadeh. And Weinreb says the following: when we look, yes, at the value of tree, in Hebrew we have the letters Ain Tzadik, this is etz. The value of etz, tree, is 160. You can relate to it as 16. Because the 0 is not a number, you make a square root, or you look at it as square root of 16 is 4. So basically, what is a tree? Yes, if we look at it, the relation between the source and the manifestation. When the source is 1 and the manifestation is 4. Or if you look at it botanically, you can see the circumferences of the trunk, yes, which is 1, equals the circumferences of the branches that are coming from it. Also, you can look at the way the word tree is written in Hebrew. It's, if you look at it, yes, you have Ain, yes, which is like 2, vertical lines, and then you have tzaddik, and you have the foot, the long foot of the tzaddik sofit, final tzaddik, which is the trunk of the tree, meaning the name, the way the word tree is written in Hebrew, Ein Tzaddik. The calligraphy, let's say, of the word itself is a tree. I mean, the word is an image. And mankind is not any different than a tree. There is, good morning, Rodrigo. There is appearance of a tree, and then later when the tree grows, if it's a tree that brings fruit, so we shall see fruit on the tree. Also humans, there is a birth, and there is appearance of a body. What is usually happens that people grant this body or this baby with a name, and around this name, like a worldview is being presented, and this baby or this toddler will take this worldview, yes, and he will see this as the world, the glasses that he receives or he collects, the few details that this toddler is picking up. It will be the glasses through which he sees the world. But this is not a truth. Why? Because it's very short perspective. It's only about what this toddler or this young adult will see is only through the glasses which take one component in the world, which is me. But the me is just a product. Me. Do we agree to this? That the sense of me is a man-made? You can also unmute and speak. I'm trying to write it here. The me, yes? The me sense. It doesn't matter if the me is Yanis, Rodrigo, Cindy, or Jill. Is a product. It's a man-made product. People may prepare this product. It's not really real. If there is appearance of a body, the body gets a name, and the people around this baby will take care of it. If of the baby, will grant, yes, this baby a name. Few details will be picked up as his place where he dwells. And this is this body's life. This is the me sense that he will gather from the near surrounding, whether it's biological parents, foster parents, grannies that adopt. The first details that he will pick up will be his sense of identity. And this identity will catch a lot of gravity around it. It gives people sense of meaning. This is who I am. But this is not. This is the name that we receive is just a product of the time or a product of appearing here. So in a way, Jill can be relieved, and Cindy and Rodrigo and Yanis can be relieved because life, yes, as it is, as the source, is not a product. Yanis, Rodrigo, Jill and Cindy are products. At the time, like we sometimes visit a supermarket, there's a product on the shelf in a box. Usually it's written what is there, there's a picture, They tell you when they produce it, expiring date, and so if you have to be careful from allergies, and so it's a product. Men made this product, put it in a box, make sure that it will be attractive for us to look, to relate, maybe wish to buy it. But it's a product. It's something that is narrowed down to the size of a square of size of consumption, that it will be appetized for us to relate to it and to take it, to put it in the bag and take it home. In a way, we are also, when I say we, those names are also man-made products. What we think my life is, or how I see or perceive my life, is only a product. It's only a movie. Once people used to go to video shop and lend or borrow tapes to see movies at home, or they used to go to the library to borrow a book and to read at home. And so today people maybe don't go to shop. Maybe they have a streaming services. They're watching a movie. Our, so to speak, personal life are not any different than the movie that we see on streaming services. It's only like what is movie? It's like moving what? Scenes. And we connect those separated, so to speak, scenes, and we make them. We are the editors, so to speak, of this movie called My Life. But sometimes we think that My Life as Yanis, Rodrigo, Cindy, or Jill is a better production than streaming services because it's about the me. But there isn't any difference. This is why people also like to see movies, because our lives as me, with a name, with an address, is also a movie. So there is no difference between the me movie and any streaming services movies that there are, regardless of the content. Now it's a movie, just moving pictures. And then we have what happens when there's a movement of pictures. We have the notion of duration in time. And so to speak, there is a progress in the plot. Maybe it's a tragedy, maybe it's a comedy, maybe so there is a movement and something is happening, but only to the eyes of the beholder, because time does not exist only for the object. Questions so far? You can also unmute and speak, and please, if you want to give an example. Yes? Yes, Jill, please.
Well, I guess I can kind of give an example. I was thinking about that as you was talking about it, because I think a lot about the way that I was raised and the culture that I kind of grew up in. That they tell us that that this is our history, and some of us grow up thinking, okay, so this is my history, but I don't really have a home. So then it really, like a homeland or whatever. So it ends up kind of impacting the way that you think. And then you start to kind of move toward people that kind of think that same way. And it kind of continues to feed that part, I guess, that part of your brain that this is where I belong, this is my story. And yeah, it's another way to think that for me now that it is just part of just a limited view of real life for me. But it is
Yes. Yes, it shuts us down, and
yeah.
metaphor of which, let's say, group of people or story we identify ourselves with, it just narrows us down to a story, regardless of the story, in which continent, in which class. People have all kinds of, let's just give you an example of people's story. We met a reader of the German books, and he said he defined, listen to this story. This is interesting how people are, in a way, it's not dependent on them, but they receive a story from somewhere in the chain, up there in the chain, and it colors in terms of determines the way of their life. So we heard from a Brazilian resident that at the moment lives in Berlin, that his grandpa, who lived in Ukraine 100 years ago, just listen to the story, it's interesting. He is the 13th child of the family in Ukraine 100 years ago. And he immigrated, grandpa, to Brazil. This is the grandpa of the Brazilian who lives now in Berlin, who learns German. This is how, just an example, how a narrative is being built. This is how this dude or this guy introduces himself to us. So he got, let's say, a sentence from his grandpa. It might be true that his grandpa was 13th child of certain family in Ukraine, in the village, or it might be true, but this is only a fragment of reality. And why 13 is very important, because 13 is one, yes, in Hebrew, yes. And it's love, so it's very, very important to repeat on this narrative. But each and every one of us goes to the world with a sentence that determines his or her narrative. Where were you born in, under which family name, or a special date in the year, next to the holiday, outside of the holiday, next to a war, after a war, before immigration, after immigration, before they landed on the moon, after they landed on, there's infinite narrations that people can create. And it colors or gives a tone to our life. And the more we identify with this sentence, the 13th generations, the 13th child, the 7th, let's say, generation from coming to a certain country, immigrating, it colors our life. If we swallow the bait, it will make ourselves miserable, because it narrows us down to certain random facts. Who immigrated to where, in which time, before the war, after the war, before the moon, after the moon, before the nuclear, after. It doesn't matter. All of this is a great rubbish. Great rubbish. While we're quitting those stories or narrations about ourselves, we can live life. And not with this gravity that binds me to certain people because they have, so to speak, a similar story, because they swallow the same bait, because they need identity. What is identity? It's like a story which is made by man and managed to clutter enough gravity, enough people that will believe to this bait together. Why to live such a narrow life? Why? Anyways, we're coming to this life. Nobody asked us. We just came, appeared here. We got name, we got circumstances. Somehow life managed to grow those babies up in different cultures, different sets. And we are here. And at some point we shall leave. I mean, the body will cease to exist. Consciousness will stay. At least to live life. Why to live with those rubbish stories? Why not to step outside of ignorance? This is the question. one question. Why not to step outside of ignorance? Why? Why to stay in the dark? Why? And what do we do here? Try to step from ignorance. Because what we have been told, this is our narration, circumstances, immigrant, force, second generation, it's random. And it's not true. The apple tree, every, what is about June or so, sends its apples, let's say. First, there is flowers on the apple tree in the spring, and then next to summer, it just takes the fruits. Every year, the apple tree gives the fruit. But those apples, they don't tell themselves stories. I grew in this mountain, I grew in the hills of Italy, I grew in the hills of Greece. Okay, when you come to the supermarket, yes, as a customer, you will find a label on the apple. A sticker comes from Italy, from Greece, from Argentina, and so from America. So, but for itself, the apple does not open its mouth and tells you, because there is no difference between the apple and us. There is not any difference. And all of those sessions is just to step out of ignorance, the suffering, the stories about me. Somebody told me something at work. He leaked on me a sentence and therefore I was fired. All kinds of stories people are coming with. It doesn't matter. It just does not matter. It's not right. What is this, the movie that we see as, oh, we tend to think this is our life, is just random pictures that the brain is sorting and all the time is offering us as a beautiful candy bar. But this is not the truth. And here, one sentence that I would like to share from the book Two Coins, or Two Sides of the Same Coin, something. There was a great teacher in India, and he lived in an ashram. He came to the ashram when he was, I think, is 14, 17, something like that. And he lived in the ashram all of his life. Serving people, he was available for people who came to ask advice, to learn. 24/7 available for the people who came there. When he was on his deathbed, he heard that people are weeping and crying. And he asked in his last moment, why are people crying and weeping? And they answered him that they are crying and weeping because he's gonna go, meaning he's gonna leave. And then he told him the beautiful, most beautiful sentence. Where do you think that I'm going? The last sentence to people around his deathbed, weeping and crying about his walking, so to speak, from them, or leave the body. Yes? Where do you think that I'm going? In other words, why do you cry and you weep and you mourn? Nobody goes anywhere. What you are crying of, and this is an expansion, yes? It's just something that does not have any existence of its own. It's being animated. So what people basically weeping about what? About the illusion. The illusion will disappear soon, because the source is not going anywhere. And this is the last sentence that he told them. Where do you think that I'm going? We always presume, yes, that people are being born and people are dying, people are coming, yes? People are very happy when there's a birth, a baby, yes? Very, very happy when baby is coming, celebrating before and after and shower and so happy. People are crying when people are leaving. Like this beautiful example that last week we shared about the space of wagons in the bus, that the mother put a baby and suddenly when comes an elderly couple on a wheelchair, she was upset. Yeah. So people are very, very, very upset when somebody's leaving and very happy when somebody's coming. But it's not true. Nobody's coming and nobody's leaving. Nobody's coming and nobody's leaving. Nobody's being born and nobody dies. It's very simple. And there is no need to live in this dark cellar, yes, of personal narration. There is no need. It's just rubbish. This is just rubbish. Question, Cindy, Rodrigo, Yanis? There isn't any loss. People are afraid to lose things. Yes, Rodrigo, can you unmute and read the text? Yes. I hope we can hear you.
Good morning, Yeti. Good
Good
morning,
morning.
Jill. Yanni, Cindy, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good morning. How do you do?
Oh, I'm fine, Yeti. Today it's a beautiful day here. It's an amazing time to us. Everything is okay. And how can I say? I'm very happy to be here to hear your voice, but it's hard to deal, and it's difficult to comprehend and to live our lives in this perspective that you put on the table, because it changes everything. So it's hard. We are in this process. We try to how can I say, to understand this and to live with coherence with these concepts. But it's hard process, I believe. And so I just wrote a question with, how can I say, try to share some doubts with you and our friends. And I don't know if you want that I can read this
Yes,
question.
please. Yes, please.
Is this identification of the me when a person looks in the mirror just an illusion, a personal consciousness? Of course, I agree that everyone can raise this consciousness to a transpersonal level, literally transcend. But this movement to a universal consciousness is a difficult and slow process, I believe. And still, Eti, what is the role of our memories and remembers? Because in some way they contribute to anchoring us in this concept of me, personality. Should we ignore our...
Yes. There are memories and remembrance, but it's not about me. There's something that happened to any human. If you don't see that it happened to me, it just happened to a human. It's not in many things in those conversations. We give examples of life which is happening in the moment. Also in the podcast. The whole engine of the podcast, and there are a few hundreds of them, is from experience, but which is not personal. It happened, but it is never was shared as happened to me. This is the difference also between Weinreb books and others also. Weinreb wrote 3 volumes, just an example, about the Second World. Thousands, if not millions, of books were written on Second World War. Movies, theater shows, plays. But only Weinreb wrote about the war, not from the perspective of me. In other words, how war is. Most of it, there is a bit, I didn't know. Several weeks ago, I was surfing on a literature site. There is a genre in literature which is called Holocaust literature or Second World War literature. They come together usually, though they're different stories, but this is genre in literature. Millions of books, and I'm not, regardless of personal, how do you say, stories, which is like testifying about this period. But all of them have something in common. They were written from the perspective of me. Me and the world, me and the war, what the war did to me. Only Weinreb, in his 3 volumes, each volume is about 1,000 pages, 3,000 or more pages, speak about the war as the war is. You see the difference? You can give an example of something that happened, but not as happened to me, as happening. War isn't happening. And the one you see in the mirror is not me. Who thinks that the one who is looking in the mirror is me? Have you ever heard a Greek mythological story about it? Who looks in the mirror, or better off in his reflection in the water, and sees their reflection as me? There's a Greek beautiful story about it, mythology. Yes, Narcissus, Narcissus, me, looks in the reflection and say, this is me. I'm outside of this world. This is why I can see my reflection. So there, people have, as human life happens, there's like memories. Things happened, but it's not happened to me. This is what life brings about. And in this way, this is how Weinreb wrote his beautiful 3 volumes about the war, and nobody describe or writes about the war in this way. This is amazing. Let's say, experience to read this book, because it's the first time that you have this window this opportunity to look and to see reality as it happens, and not from the narrow passage of me. It happened to me when I was in Belgium. It happened to me when I was in France, when I was in Italy, when I was in Spain, let's say, when I was in the Pacific Ocean. I was in Pearl Harbor when the Japanese attack. I was in Malaysia. So all of those stories, infinite books which are coming, the more and more series, TV series, movies, books, reviews, coming from this, it happened to me, this is my story. Even if it's a fictional story, it comes all the time from the me perspective, from the one who was born in space and time and carried a story about me, my identity. I'm a French, I'm Dutch, I'm Romanian. I was born in Ukraine, 13th generation. And it's just, how do you say, it's a scratch. So if you want to live the life of a scratch, go tell yourself that the one who comes to you in the mirror, this is me. If you want to live this narrow life, go ahead. It brings suffering. This is suffering. It brings heaviness because it's why? Because it's a lie. Cannot bring happiness. If you're happy, because inside there's nothingness, therefore we can be happy. But if there's a sense of self-identity, and I just give you an example, just people like sport, they like to be identified with one football, how do you say, team or basketball team, and they take all their energy because the stadiums are filled with fans, and the game is broadcast all over the country. It gives them the sense of we are strong together. All of us fan of certain team, and when the game is over, all the air goes out of the balloon, and they feel sad, and they go and drink beer, and they get drunk, because it's an illusion. So, would you like to live as a football fan? But a football fan, let's say you understand, like 11 how do you say, guys are running on the field, but you want to live as your fan, as your Rodrigo fan. This is how you want to live life. When Rodrigo wins, there's happiness. When Rodrigo loses, everybody's mourning. Everybody's like, there's a team inside, and everybody's mourning when Rodrigo loses, so to speak. This is how we see life. And there's a community inside of us. Yes, there's a fan. When Rodrigo wins, everybody's happy. This is how you want to live life. In this duality, I'm in the world, I'm outside the world. Yes? It is very sad, but most of people live like this. Because we always tend to move in life as a whole has to do with what is happening to me, what the markets are offering me now. Regardless of what is happening, how many dolphins are swimming now under the ocean, nobody cares. No, when they will open the next, let's say, computer shop, and everybody will stand to get their new iPhone, nothing is existing, not the air, not the galaxy, not the dolphin, not the ants, not the storks, not the butterflies, not the cats. This is how we live life. But there's also cats, and there's trees, and there's wind. So many things, and bees and ants. But everything stands if I will be at 8 o'clock when they open the new Eiffel Tower. And my life, this is the story, this is dependent on it. It's not sad. And then people go to the psychologist that they will analyze them. Well, all this science of psychology, let's call it, is leaning on or sucking its juice from narration. Once you have no narration, there is no psychology. Why doesn't a cat has a psychiatric, let's say, entity around the cat? Why? He sleeps when he's tired. He eats when he's hungry. He hunts after a bird, whether he wants to catch her or to be entertained. This is very simple. But we tell ourselves stories. Yes, we tell ourselves stories. Why I need to go there? Da 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 da. Look at the cat now. It's winter. She came. She just crashed. She's next to the heater. Yes, she makes herself circle, conserve heat, and she's there crashing 8 hours. She doesn't tell us stories. She's tired. She conserves heat. There's a storm outside. Soon the storm is like approaching every moment more. They don't go to session. They don't go to a Jungian association. They don't. The bird, the sparrow here, they don't. You see, it's quite simple. So in a way, all of those sessions, they're just what? An offering. Humble offering to step outside of ignorance, to step outside. You don't have to step even to, it's not a mechanical thing that we step, just to drop the story of self-narration, to drop the story of me, which is not existing at all. It's very simple. And with this beautiful message, we would like to wish you a very good week, beautiful life, and see you as soon as possible. Thank you, Rodrigo, Jill, Cindy, Yanis, and friends. Toda, and see you soon. Shalom, ולהתראות.